Hey guys, welcome back to Westeros Weekly. If you're new here, this is the show that answers your biggest questions about every episode of Game of Thrones. I'm Filup Molina.
And I'm Erik Voss.
And oh my god, we waited almost 2 years for the final season, and it's here, episode 1 of season 8. All the Starks are back in Winterfell. We're getting dragon flying lessons. It's How to Train Your Dragon 8. And everyone is also giving a bunch of side-eye.
Oh, yeah. We're kind of like that little kid at the beginning of the episode who's like trying to peek through and get our look at all of our favorite characters back again. Like, get out of my way, Grandma. You're blocking my view of the Unsullied.
I literally shoved my grandmother so I could get a better
worth
view.
it. Yeah, I mean,
unrelated.
time's limited.
Yeah. Speaking of things your grandmother hates about you, you could listen to us in many other ways. There's coverage that we have now as a podcast, so you can get this show, Erik's episode breakdowns, and all of our other Game of Thrones content in audio form earlier than these video versions. Or you might be listening to the audio already, and then you know the
good
future.
Job. Well done.
Yeah.
You're well ahead of the game.
If you're not though, just look for Westeros Weekly on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We've got a lot of great stuff, by the way, in this episode. Of course, we're going to answer all your questions about what happened in the episode, what it all means. We have some other fun segments that we do every week. We have weekly power rankings, all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But we're going to start with the big question that is on all of our minds. Now, our off-screen producer says that this week, our question is coming to us via the Stardust app.
Oh.
All right. So, by the way, this is just an app we use, Stardust. It's a social media app that is specifically for film and TV lovers. You can share your video reactions on there, or you can actually do text reactions there now, too. That's where we pull our video questions for the show from. You just got to make sure to tag us at New Rockstars so we can see it. But let's get right into the first one with at Hatchman25.
Hey, new Rockstars. My question is, what's up with that new weapon that Arya wants Gendry to design for her?
Ooh, okay.
Good question.
Yes, this is definitely what I went into full research mode about last night. What is up with Arya's design for a new secret weapon? Erik, remind us of this moment.
Yeah, so this is from the very quick moment in that reunion scene down in the Winterfell Forges where this was a lot of faces were coming back together. One of them was Arya and the Hound. The other one was Arya with Gendry.
Did you notice it was a bit awkward with the Hound, right?
Awkward.
If you remember, she did leave him for dead.
Yes.
She also robbed him, which I love that she pointed that out. She's such a badass now. And he was previously on her kill list, but then she said that she took him off. But also awkward with Gendry in the way that like it's awkward with your middle school crush. When you run into each other in the halls of high school now.
Yes.
And it's like now we're allowed to kiss.
And I like the Hound was kind of like that grizzled gym teacher who's kind of like, young love is happening. I'm out of here. F this.
That's what you got to get out right before the kids hit puberty. That's when
too steamy, too hot in those forges.
So they did put that love on the back burner so that Arya could ask Gendry to make her a new weapon.
Ooh.
So, of course, this is New Rockstar. So we, in the background before we started here, we zoomed in and enhanced. Zoomed in and enhanced it.
We zoomed it and enhanced it.
And you can see that the diagram, it has some writing on it. If you look closely, it would say dragon glass on one part of it. It also looks like it has detachable pieces. We know in terms of weaponry, Arya already has her sword needle, and she also has the Valyrian steel dagger, the cat's paw dagger. So why would she need this third new weapon?
Okay, well, I have a few thoughts on why she might need this new weapon. This is right after Arya saw the dragon, and she smiled in wonder, right? Like, everyone else around her in Wintertown was freaking out, running for cover. What is this flying witchcraft? She seemed to be getting inspired, getting ideas.
Well, in the book, she's obsessed with female dragon riders, too. So I'm sure a part of it is like, oh, man, I'm a ride a dragon.
Absolutely. And this was shortly after Bran announced that the Night King himself has one of those dragons as a weapon of his own. So, and this
which was news to Daenerys.
Yes.
By the way, there was that look, that exchange, and she kind of kept it together, but that's very bad news that she just received.
Yes. Yeah. And this is also after Arya doesn't seem that proud of all the killing when she's talking with Jon. He asks, have you used it before? And she goes, once or twice, that kind of awkward moment.
Right.
And, maybe that could mean something more. So there's a reason that this has a dragon glass tip. That's clearly important. She wrote dragon glass on there. She couldn't just tell him, hey, the stuff that you're using currently right now, put that on the end of what I want. This has to be dragon glass. And maybe she's done thinking about killing mortal men, and now she has her sights set on killing immortal beasts, or not necessarily immortal, but mythical beasts like the dragon, or specifically the Night King and or his zombie dragon.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so there are some very cool possibilities that showed up in some research about what the weapon might be based on and also how it might work. So specifically, this is the thing I'm leaning toward the most right now. It could be this kind of like homemade detachable tip spear or harpoon. This is something that they teach people in classes of like, you know, if you ever have to survive out in the wilderness because, you know, your family dumped you out there and you remember.
Well, I had to learn the hard way, but yes, I remember.
These lessons of things that you could do. And it's based on what ancient fishermen used to use, a detachable spearhead to hunt sea animals that you might be ones that like thrash around like seals or sharks or ancient dragons, I guess. Sea dragons, if
they
you will.
actually existed, yes.
Not like a narwhal, a made-up thing. It could, but the way it works is you could also compare it to another weapon where just this idea of the projectile element. There's this Native American weapon called, I believe it's called alotl. It's alotl, I think, and it's specifically a spear thrower. You know how like they have dog tennis ball throwers if you're like kind of a
whiplash effect where it launches it further.
Yeah, kind of, or like a deadly ball and cup game.
Okay. Every ball and cup game is deadly.
Yeah, if you do it right. Me. Yeah. But the idea is that it throws the spear further and faster than you would be able to by hand. So maybe up into the air to hit a flying dragon, or maybe to hit someone riding a dragon. This is also the same episode where Bran is bragging that he's the only man to ever have shot a dragon, which could foreshadow the idea that maybe you'll stay the only man that shoots a dragon. But so she could definitely be using this device. You said specifically to take down a dragon. I actually have another theory of like how specifically she might be planning to use it. Okay, so you remember that we saw back in the season 8 trailer, we were trying to study what Arya was holding in the trailer. Okay, kind of looked like a spear, right?
Yeah.
I know we assumed that it could just be a general spear, but we also talked about maybe it could be dragonglass. Well, let's assume, maybe that's the dragonglass spear. I think Arya wants a weapon with this detachable tip on one side and then spin it around, boom, Valyrian steel dagger on the other side, a double-sided spear with the projectile element built in. It's like a Swiss Army knife, or if you look at it, it's probably it's worthy of like of Darth Maul, probably.
Oh yeah, that's a great. Yeah, it's like Darth Maul if he had a lightsaber on one side and then like a gun on the other side.
Yeah. I am just realizing that Darth Maul is absolutely the Night King.
Oh like, yeah, he's the same guy. He's got the same horns and everything. Yeah,
he just like blew himself.
Yes.
Yeah. Check it out. Tommy Dunn, by the way, is the guy who designs the weaponry for Game of Thrones. He said that he did build a specific weapon for season 8 that was a showstopper and a doozy and a hubba hubba whata. He's using all these silly terms.
This one's a doozy.
But this could be that weapon.
Yeah, and in the season 8 trailer, you could see while she's holding that weapon, Arya says the words, "I know death. He's got many faces, but I look forward to seeing this one." That could just be like convenient trailer editing stuff that they always loop stuff over, but maybe there's some greater significance to this. And I think the face she's definitely talking about here, I know death, I've seen it, he has many faces. The specific face is that of the Night King.
Or Darth Maul.
In both cases, the literal face of death. And I think she's going to kill, or at least try to kill, the Night King with her new super spear. That seems to be her focus of it. Why else have it tipped with dragonglass?
Yeah, or at least try to kill him.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Yeah, like who gets to kill the Night King is kind of a big thing for all the characters. I'm sure have reasons. I think though that would make sense. I know we just went two different directions here about the dragon or the Night King. I think that that's the idea of this two-sided thing.
Yeah.
One side is to bring down his dragon ride, and the other is to give him a new mouth on his neck.
Yeah. You can always use an extra.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to see how this weapon turns out this season, how she's going to use it. I'm assuming that we're also going to see the Hound swing his new dragonglass axe, which wasted so much dragonglass. There's so many people most people can't.
We could have made 20 more arrowheads out of this. Instead, you got one big weapon, and then he dies immediately. That's what's going to happen.
Also, Bran has that very fancy crossbow. I'm wondering if that's going to come into play. Either way, thank you to Hatchman25 for asking that Stardust question. But actually, speaking of Stardust, huge news. This is so big. I'm so excited to tell you guys about this. If you download the Stardust app to share your reactions and also to ask us questions about each episode, and you tag us at New Rockstars, you might not only get your question played on the episode of this, Westeros Weekly, like Hatchman just did, you might get flown out here. Well, you will get if you're the people that win this. Here, you're flown out to Los Angeles to watch the finale of Game of Thrones with us live in person at a special screening watch party event.
Wow.
You will join us.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
Yes, you're gonna get to meet us up close and personal.
Oh, don't we sound interesting to meet
Yes.
in person? You got to see what kind of puppets we really are and who's pulling the strings on us. Yeah, you'll get to find out. We'll announce more details about the event soon, but specifically, 2 lucky fans are going to get their travel and accommodations provided to hang out with us and watch the show. All you got to do to enter is follow us on the app Stardust. You get 1 entry for doing that, and then you get another entry every single time that you tag us on the app. So get to tagging.
Yeah, get to tagging. Oh, this is a great opportunity.
I'm so excited.
This is how we met, right? Like we
were each other's fans and
Yes.
we won contests.
Yeah, for each other's contests,
Yeah.
and then we got our divorced parents back to fall in love again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great story. You'll hear all about it as we talk over the finale episode of Game of Thrones.
I can't wait. Next question.
Yes.
Oh,
man.
What is this?
The Ravens are getting more and more involved.
Off-screen
each
producer's
week.
jacked arm was in frame for
I didn't see it. I only saw a very furry raven just pop in.
Oh, okay, yeah. We'll take that out on post, Devin.
Well, here is the question. At Ali Cultivated asks, do you think Bran will kill both Lannister brothers?
Ooh.
It's definitely one of the interesting reveals from this episode, yes. Bran was given by Qyburn the fancy crossbow that we've seen before on the show.
Technical name.
In order to kill for Cersei both Jaime and Tyrion.
Yeah, it came in that very emotional reunion with Bran and prostitutes.
Yes.
But this is a really interesting question because Bran is obviously buddies with both of the Lannister brothers. Yeah. So you would think you wouldn't want to kill them. I know that when I was watching, everybody's like, he's not going to do it, right? He wouldn't do it. But Bran has been specifically always motivated by money.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she's offering to him. He sold out Tyrion before in season 4 when Cersei bribed him with a marriage to a noblewoman with money in return for representing Tyrion in trial by combat against a mountain. Remember, like,
that's why he wanted him to be his champion again. He's like, I've been bought out. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. There was like a higher bidder, basically. Though, over and over, from the first time he met Bran to last season in the Dragon Pit, Tyrion has said that if anyone ever hires you, Bran, to kill me, I will pay double.
Yeah. And he told Jaime last season, Bran told Jaime last season after he saved him from getting roasted by Drogon, till I get what I'm owed, a dragon doesn't get to kill you. You don't get to kill you. Only I get to kill you. So it's kind of it tells you where his mindset really is at. He's not necessarily a true loyal companion and a friend. This is a sellsword through and through. And all that really motivates him is his gold. So we don't, even though we see them together and we kind of ship them in our heads, they must be friends because they went on adventures together. Bran's really only there because there's a promise of payment and a castle at the end. And Jaime has reneged on his promises to Bran before, and Cersei's paying Bran with a wagon of gold up front, outside, down payment. That's more than Jaime has ever done. All that Jaime gave him is this little bag of gold on that Blackwater Rush episode in season 7. Maybe Bran has different rules for different Lannister boys, and he will try to kill Jaime. He did teach him how to fight with one hand. Maybe he knows how to beat him because he didn't tell him a couple tricks that he really does need to know. Or ultimately, a one-handed fighter can only do so much. But before we continue, quick sponsor shout out to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans, and delivers step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so that you can just cook and eat and enjoy, as we all should only have to worry about. HelloFresh makes conquering the kitchen a reality with deliciously simple recipes. They do all the meal planning and shopping and prepping so that you can just focus on a healthier you and a happier family, and spend less time meal planning and grocery shopping so that you can spend more time just doing what you love, like watching new Rockstars videos. There are 3 plans to choose from. There's a classic plan, veggie, and a family plan. And there's an option to switch if your tastes change over time. I personally really enjoyed how HelloFresh has simplified my whole dinner time. I love the recipes. I just got a delivery. There was like a pork carnitas tacos. It was so good. And apricot glazed chicken, stuff that I would normally not think to shop for by myself, but they prepped it all for me and I could just go, and it was awesome, delicious. And it has become hands down my favorite meal kit delivery service. For $80 off your first month of HelloFresh, go to hellofresh.com/rockstars80 and enter the promo code rockstars80. It's like receiving 8 meals for free. You can just go to hellofresh.com/rockstars80 and enter the promo code rockstars80 for $80 off your first month of HelloFresh meal delivery kits.
Before we get to the next question, quick shout out to another great sponsor that's helping us bring this show to you. Bran isn't the only person who cares about money. You also care about money and making more of it. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't charge any commission fees, so you can trade stocks and keep all of your profits. Plus, there is no account minimum deposit needed to get started, so you can start investing at any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. You can also view stock collections, such as the 100 most popular. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in the market as you build your portfolio, discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the exact right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners of New Rockstars a free stock like Apple or Ford or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. All you got to do is sign up at rockstars.robinhood.com. Again, that's rockstars.robinhood.com. There you can sign up and get a free stock.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, no.
What's this? Oh, he's just hopping
bird,
along.
Yeah.
So what happened to his
podcast
wings?
listeners have no idea what we're reacting to.
Yes.
But a raven just smacked Erik in the face like Fabio all those years ago.
Okay, at Mia Stasha asks, why did Cersei sleep with Euron?
Yeah, this was interesting, right?
I mean, we don't want to shame her for her choices, but it's an interesting thing. It seems a little out of character for Cersei to want to do this. A little out of character with who she was at the beginning of that scene. So why did she change her mind suddenly? Well, we do know that from Lancel Lannister that Cersei doesn't necessarily mind sleeping with someone just for a good time. But really the reason she slept with Lancel was because he reminded her so much of Jaime. At least that's what we found out in the books.
He's probably like a young Jaime.
A young Jaime, an even younger version who she can better control and use to do her bidding. Now, we heard in Euron's ship scene with Yara that he's not super loyal to Cersei. He just wants to hook up with a queen, and maybe Cersei knows that the only way to keep him on her side is just let him in her bedroom just once, just one time, just to shut him up. But he's not going to shut up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's going to talk about this till the end of his days in a few days. But also somebody I was watching with was like, really, just to sleep with a queen? And I was like, are you kidding me? A queen? If Queen Elizabeth were here right now, I would beg for
You just committed treason in the UK.
Yeah. I said I would beg. I wouldn't take it.
Hey, we fought a war so we don't have to respect your monarch. I did. I'm 300 years old.
Okay, so it's telling of what's really going on here when Euron does that creepy thing of rubbing her belly.
Yeah,
he
as one does.
Yeah, and then as one says, I'm going to put a little prince in you.
Yes.
Which you said that to me when
Super
we first
romantic.
met.
Post-coital pillow talk. It's perfect.
Which I definitely immediately thought of like Prince, the singer, but just a little baby Prince would be amazing.
There's no cuddling after that.
Okay, so Euron isn't actually putting anything in there, right? Because she is supposed to already be pregnant. So that's the look that she has on her face. So either she's taking that into account, or she's about to ruin their alliance.
You also wonder if Cersei's using Euron as like a fake father for her pregnancy, She's no longer on the same side as Jaime. And she told Jaime last season, he asked, who are you going to say as a father? And she says, you, of course. But now he's abandoned her, so she can't really do that anymore. It would be kind of awkward. So maybe she needs like a new kind of father figure for this baby, another powerful man in Westeros, and say he's the father. And, let's be honest, when you're depressed that you didn't get any murder water elephants with your new army. You got to make some bad decisions somewhere in there. It's just going to happen naturally.
I think that she is not really looking for a father figure for this baby, though, right? No. I don't think she respects father figures. Right? She's always been like, not seen as worthy by her own father figure. And then Robert wasn't a great dad either. But I do think that there is something about claiming that this baby is Euron's, and maybe, as far as she knows, he still has that claim to the Iron Islands.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand that that's
we're talking about like
gone.
The public version of
Exactly.
Cersei versus a private version. Publicly, she probably wants like to secure the throne by having like another noble-born father to this baby, so that she can say this baby is legitimate, so that the line of succession is secured, as is her power in that myth that she's putting out there.
It's the same plan as Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, apple to the throne. Yeah,
apple to the throne.
Yeah.
Oh, what's this? Oh, thank you, Raven. At H. Mikkel Hess wants to know, why does the Night King make that spiral symbol? Okay, well, just to remind you guys, let's pour one out for the only person with a name to die this episode. Poor Ned Umber. People named Ned have really no chance in the world of Game of Thrones.
And he's named after Ned Stark.
Oh yes, he is deliberately named after Ned Stark. So don't name your kid Ned, unless you want to be better off Ned.
No,
yep.
don't do that.
I just did.
Okay, but what I want to acknowledge is that there's all those body parts with Ned and him. He's kind of crucified in the middle there, and it makes the spiral symbol. That is a familiar symbol.
Yes.
We've seen that north of the wall at the Fist of the First Men. Mm-hmm. We saw it when Jon showed Dany the cave at Dragonstone. Mm-hmm. We just haven't necessarily given it meaning yet.
Yes, we only loosely know what it means. Now, it's not in the books. They don't ever describe, a whirl spiral pattern appearing on the wall.
Right.
It's a new invention for the show. But, and the White Walkers themselves are not very good at explaining what they're all about. They're kind of, cats got their tongue. But people have brought up in this episode that the flaming spiral, at least from a viewer standpoint, looks very similar to the Targaryen sigil, which has dragon heads, 3 dragon heads, and tails and arms that kind of form a similar spiral pattern, which I believe in the past, Philip, you've described as an octopus when it gets angry. It just spins.
And it spins around real fast and gets spiky.
That's my favorite description of what this is. But the reason why this could be important is, is there a connection here? And even if the Night King doesn't intend there to be a connection, did the producers say, hey, there's a reason this looks similar. There's a reason that we specifically showed this image of the Night King, this spiral, on fire this episode, which, Targaryens, fire and blood, that's their whole symbolism and their imagery. And they have made a point about talking about sigils earlier in this episode. Remember, Tyrion saw the Karstarks, their starburst sigil, and he said, there are worse sigils out there. At least it's not an onion. Right. And it does kind of look like an onion when it's splayed open. If you go to Outback Steakhouse, can we get them as a sponsor? Oh boy, I love those. I've already sponsored them.
We haven't had lunch yet.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Most of the evidence that we have about what's going on with this symbol revolves specifically around the Children of the Forest, who made the White Walkers of the first White Walker at a place with stones in that same spiral shape.
Yeah.
And so what I think is really interesting, this stood out to me when you see that image of little Ned Umber, which is a terrible children's story to tell in the future. Little Ned Umber is impaled through the chest, just like the first White Walker was, with dragon glass. Also, if you kind of take a look at this image, when we first see it, it's obscured a bit by the tree, but at the center of the whirl is where this is happening, where the Night King is being made, essentially. That same center is where we find little Ned Umber. It feels like maybe they're implying that everything's headed back there to where the children, not necessarily to where it originally happened, but to that concept of where it all started, where he was made, maybe to unmake something or to make a whole new race of things. We don't know. But all we know right now is that at the least, it's a really sick way to make some sort of warning. But it might not be a warning just for the people up north. It might be a warning for the Children of the Forest. I'm coming for you guys,
He did use a kid.
Yeah.
He could have used any of the other adults who lived there at Last Hearth, but he used the kid.
Yeah, which is interesting that actually that pointing that out, the kid is technically the head of that household.
Yes.
At the time, which I feel like is probably part of it too. He's like, I'm taking the person who has the reins here. Maybe that's part of it too. You know, if that would put Jon Snow in his sights, or Daenerys, or someone who also is holding some sort of high ranking. I don't think Cersei. I don't think I don't think he even cares that she exists.
Either way, the Night King's cutting some promo here. I'm coming for you, other kids in northern houses.
You're trying to work this in every time a wrestling impression.
Wrestling's amazing. Oh, here's our friend again. Hey,
the Raven's gotten a lot louder.
He really wants us to ask these questions. Okay, so at SM Palomares asks, what's up with Drogon's look while Jon and Daenerys are kissing? And at BayK50 asks, what's up with Bran's look when Jaime arrives in Winterfell? So we got kind of a double question here. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting glances going on this episode, right? So Drogon was giving that look to Jon. Maybe he's pissed because someone's making out with his mom, and that's just weird. Like any kid, when mom brings home a new boyfriend, he's like, okay, fine, you may be able to ride my brother, but I'm not cool with this. Even if it is in front of an awesome-looking waterfall, this isn't Lisa Frank enough for me, and I'm pissed that this is happening right now, and I will never accept you as my new dad.
I'm glad you're finally able to talk about all that.
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
Great. Here's one thing that I think is fun. I remember who Drogon's named after? Khal Drogo.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in there, too, where it's just kind of like if the spirit of Khal Drogo is anywhere and it's watching his girl get taken by a much less Cal type guy, I mean, he might be giving that look for a little bit of that reason too.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Now, as for the shot with Jaime and Bran, that other interesting look, this is the first time they have met since the first episode of the series. Remember when Jaime just pushed Bran out of a window, and Bran told Sam earlier that he was waiting for an old friend in the courtyard.
Hours earlier.
Left alone. I guess they need to put some wheelchair ramps up in Winterfell, because otherwise that guy's not going anywhere. But apparently that old friend was Jaime Lannister. It's interesting to describe him that way. Bran told everyone that they didn't have time for any nonsense at the beginning of this episode. It's like, no time for greetings. I'm going to ruin everyone's day with the worst possible information. And maybe that applies to his viewing of Jaime as well, because the Night King's coming, and he's basically not doing anything for the rest of this episode, right? He convinced Samwell Tarly to go talk to Jon. He seems to be like waiting for some other bigger reason. He's like, I don't have time to deal with that stuff. You guys deal with this stuff. I have a more important thing on the horizon.
Yeah, I think that the moment that he says "old friend," kind of foreshadows that he's not gonna do what the rest of us would do and really rub his making us disabled in his face. Yeah. I think he says "old friend" because he's just like, yeah, we have a history, but maybe there's actually a much bigger part that Jaime has to play, and he's excited to finally bring this figure into the battle and kind of fill him in on what he needs him to do. He could even technically, I don't know, be some amount of grateful for Jaime's role in getting Bran to fulfill his destiny of becoming the Three-Eyed Raven. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw a little bit in the preview next time that it seems like a lot of people are going to be upset with Jaime. I think it wouldn't be so shocking if Bran's actually the one that stands up for his new Lannister friend.
Yes, I will not press charges or blink ever. Yeah. Well, now let's move on to our power rankings, right? So we've been talking a lot about all the great questions that you guys have been sending in. Thank you so much. They were all amazing. But now it's the part of the show you guys decide for us. It's a Game of Thrones power rankings. You voted in our poll on Twitter for who you thought won the episode last night, and we got our results in.
Yeah, and this wasn't a really interesting episode for it because there weren't any battles. None of our parties made huge moves, at least. So the vote actually ended up being pretty evenly split between a couple of major characters. Okay. So starting with third place, we've got Sansa Stark.
Oh, okay.
She has 15% of the vote.
Got a pretty powerful episode for her. Like, she was able to tell Tyrion, I thought you were the smartest person alive. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, like it's Sansa Snark, right?
For sure.
She definitely is the one at least at the top in that way.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily, she wasn't my vote. So second place is Bran Stark, 16% of the vote. He definitely disturbed the most people.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting to see that reversal where in the first episode of the series, it ended on Bran's terrified face as being pushed out a window. Now it's been reversed, and Jaime is the most terrified person. Right. So that's definitely a power move there.
Also, a weirdo move, telling your brother when he says you're a man now, and he says almost.
What does that mean? Is that like the Britney Spears lyric? Not yet a man.
Yeah, he didn't say, I'm more than that, or I'm not a man, or he said almost, he's hoping that he gets laid soon or something.
I no longer identify with humanity. I identify as a tree.
But speaking of who he was talking to, the easy first place vote goes to Jon Snow with 21% of the vote.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he kind of showed power in a couple different ways this episode. Of course, he rode a dragon, which is always a power move on the show, but also pretty powerful in his reaction to learning about his true lineage and his true identity. He kind of had this interesting, almost like
stealing to his demeanor.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't want the crown, so that kind of not neglecting of responsibility, but saying there are bigger problems. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't need to be king. I'm giving up my crown in order to save my people. Really, nothing's more powerful and more honorable than that.
And then when he does find out, you do see the glint in his eye that this could actually matter, right? Because there's the interesting fact that he has been over being a bastard for a long time, and I think that's very honorable and respectful. But it's kind of like, oh yeah, but what if you never were a bastard the whole time? Does that change things for you? And it almost seems like it might. It's kind of like if you have a huge scar on your face and you're like, oh, it doesn't bother me, and then someday someone's just like, oh, it was just chocolate, and they smear it off, and you're like, oh, thank God, I hated this scar so much.
Yeah, isn't interesting. In the first episode, in the first couple episodes of the first season, Jon was all about dealing and struggling with this idea of being a bastard and what's his place in the world. And finally, he seems to have gotten over that. He doesn't care anymore because he has another purpose. But now Sam has kind of thrown this back in his face. He's like, oh, you're not a bastard, you're a king. And he's like, dang it, I don't want to have to worry about what my title is anymore. I'm back in the situation. Now it's too much responsibility, and I hate that I have to deal with this now. So he's kind of dealing with the same kind of conflict, just in a different
What
level.
he really hates that he has to deal with now is he knows that this is going to be trouble between him and Daenerys,
right,
which is foreshadowed by Varys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, nothing lasts, and this is just a further complication that distracts him from the real goal. Well, we have no updates this week on our death pool contest because no one died besides Ned Umber.
He wasn't on our
death pool list.
Yeah.
And there were some Greyjoys who died on the Silence, but they were all unnamed as well. They're mutes, so they couldn't even tell us what their name is because Euron cuts their tongues out. Yeah. But I will say that on my death pool, if you find mine, I will say the first person who I said dies is Euron Greyjoy. So do I get points? The fact that his men were the first characters to die?
Oh, no.
No, okay.
No,
well, I tried,
not at all.
Can't fault me for trying, but
you're not
going
to win that. But you guys might, so make sure to keep submitting to the death pool at guessthethrone.com and look up the Westeros Weekly Death Pool. But real quick, first we got to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Postmates. It's 10 minutes before one of the final Game of Thrones episodes starts, and you want some wine to drink along with Tyrion while he makes fun of Varys for, not having genitals. that kind of fun. So what do? You download the Postmates app for iOS or Android for free, and you get whatever you want delivered year-round. You can browse local stores and restaurants and track your delivery. Postmates is going to bring you what you want within the hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Food, groceries, whatever you need delivered. They have the largest on-demand merchant network in the entire known universe, which I don't know how they prove that, but I believe it. Yeah. The only thing they can't deliver is Game of Thrones spoilers and theories, which is why you're here with us. Now, so for a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. To start those free deliveries, you download the app right now. You use code Rockstars. So specifically, again, that's code Rockstars for $100 freaking dollars of free delivery credit for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app. You get anything you need, anytime you need it. Download Postmates, save with the code Rockstars.
Great. What a great deal.
Yeah, thanks. But we're going to end every episode of Westeros Weekly looking at the teaser for next week's episode, and we're going to give you our predictions for some of what we think is going to happen. We won't get too spoilery, don't worry.
When I was a child, my brother would tell me a bedtime story about the man who murdered our father. About all the things we would do to that man. He never should have trusted Cersei.
You never should have either.
Death. It's got many faces. I look forward to seeing this one.
How long do we have? Before the sun comes up tomorrow.
Ooh, that last shot especially, I've got two things to say about that last shot. One, is I think that's going to be the end of the next episode. I think this episode seems like it's going to be setting the table for the Battle of Winterfell, so that, looking out, or near the end of looking out and maybe finally seeing the armies. But the other thing I want to point out is this is something that happens in color grading in general across film and TV, but they're definitely pushing it now in this final season of Game of Thrones, is orange versus blue.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that fire versus ice. It's also our alma mater's colors.
Yeah.
But I think just keep an eye out for that stuff. What do you see in there?
I think it's interesting. Again, this is another table setting episode. How big is this freaking table on Game of Thrones? Well, we know episode 3 will be the Battle of Winterfell, not this episode. So I'm thinking they're not showing us things that are happening on other parts of Westeros. Some drama down south in King's Landing, some drama maybe with the Greyjoys. And I think that might be some bigger things going on. So hopefully we'll be seeing some twists with what Cersei's plan could be, or what's really going on with Euron and the whole Golden Company, and how is he going to respond to losing Yara? Will that blow up in his face? So for me, it's what's not in this promo that I'm most curious about.
All right, so before we just wrap up here, Eric, why don't you give a little tease of the kinds of stuff you're working on this week for our Game of Thrones coverage?
Yes, our breakdown, I'm so excited. I'm kind of midway through writing it. Some of the stuff we talked about here, like the whole Night King's sigil, what kind of messages he sent, trying to send out. I have a couple other thoughts. Really, I'm most excited to point out all the specific ways this episode was almost a shot-for-shot recreation of the first episode of the series. We talked about some of the ways, but it's almost down to specific lines of dialogue, character choices, restaging of moments with new characters, and the music. Ramin Djawadi composed some really interesting musical leitmotifs to remind us of specific things that hint to how the characters' relationships have changed. And there's also just some little connections to the book and to past episodes that surprised me. And we found out what happened to Ed Sheeran's character. So we'll be talking about that as well in the breakdown.
Also, just real quick, we talked about a lot of new stuff in the new intro for this show.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look closely, you might have seen some very interesting new dragons, 4 dragons in an image.
Yeah, they showed some tableaus of famous historical events on the series.
Some Red Comet stuff that you're also going to get into this week.
Yeah.
But that's it for this episode of Westeros Weekly. So thank you so much for watching or listening. Don't forget to subscribe to both the New Rockstars channel for our ongoing Game of Thrones coverage, but also specifically to the Westeros Weekly podcast, where you can get everything that we just talked about that Eric was saying he was going to put out. That's all going to come out on the podcast first, and then it could be a few hours later on the channel. Some of it's going to be maybe a few days later on the channel. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at New Rockstars and tweet us your questions for every episode as we go through the season with the hashtag Westeros Weekly, and also on the Stardust app, tag us at New Rockstars, and we'll feature your questions on there too. And you'll be entered to win to come watch
hang out
the
with
show
us.
with us and hang out with us and
eat
be
some
as
pizza.
awkward as we are.
Learn our origin story.
So much pizza.
Yes.
Follow me at Fimo on Twitter and at Filup Molina on Instagram.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EA Voss. Thanks for watching and listening this week, guys.
Man, I'm so hyped already for episode 3.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Episode 3 and 5.
Bye, guys.
Bye.